I come to you with a small idea that I hope will have the power to transform itself in a big movement. And as I'm working at the International University of Monaco, teaching business economics, it's not surprising that I will put business in the focus of my talk. I have entitled my talk, Reimagining Business Strategy, as it expands on a new, purpose-driven business model that supports my faith in the positive power of business, operating in a world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Anita Roddick, the famous entrepreneur and body shop founder, once said, and I quote, "In terms of power and influence, you can forget about the church, forget about politics. There is no more powerful institution in society than business." And I think she's right, end of quote. And this positive power of business can best unfold if business is allowed to do what only business can do best, and that is creating shared value. Creating shared value is not about sharing value created by businesses. Creating shared value is creating value by applying a new business model where economic success and welfare for the benefit of the society are co-created. This idea of creating shared value has been discussed in the more recent past by numerous authors, but one person stands out, and that is Michael Porter. Michael Porter is a Harvard Business School university professor who is really relentless in changing the way how business leaders and we in academics see the world. And about 10 years ago, he, together with his congenial co-author Mark Kramer, started a scientific journey together with the entrepreneur and then CEO of Nestlé, Peter Brabeck, to rediscover and to popularize this idea of creating shared value, meaning to enhance the prosperity of firms while measurably improving the prosperity of the communities, of the regions, of the nations in which they do business through solving social problems. Somewhat miraculously, this idea of creating shared value is cutting the Gordian knot of a problem that seems to be insoluble in its own terms, pairing and matching capitalism-based economic success while doing good for the benefit of the society. But I believe that creating shared value can become the biggest mind changer for the business world. Why do I believe this? Because it has the power to change the traditional strategy paradigm that is nested in Michael Porter's explanation of what is strategy, the title of one of his most popular publications from 1996, published in the Harvard Business Review, which serves as a sort of blueprint for thousands and thousands of companies around the world when they apply strategy. I call this traditional strategy model Strategy 1.0. What does it mean? In a nutshell, it means that the establishment of strategic positioning rests on a set of fundamental strategic principles that all center around one common goal, and that is to maximize the long-term return on investment. Astonishingly, not one of these strategic principles really makes reference to the genuine role that business plays in society. And the only purpose that business has is to make a good profit, to maximize shareholder value. And this has to do with the enormous impact that the business and economics guru Milton Friedman, the father of the Chicago School of Economics, had on the academic business community. In 1970, Milton Friedman has published an article, not in a business journal, interestingly in the New York Times Magazine, where he explicitly states that a business's only role should be to make a profit. Full stop. And this became the mantra that was then repeated over and over and over again. And I was always asking myself, what is really the role of business in society beyond making a profit? So this immediately then brings me to this question. What's the role of business in society? Profits are important. That's important to understand that only profitable businesses are able to create value and wealth. Businesses are the income creators, the wealth creating machine in any society. Without profitable businesses, there would be no prosperity, no improvements in standards of living. Governments, for example, don't create wealth. Governments just take the wealth created on the microeconomic level of the economy and then hopefully redistribute this wealth in a positive way. And we know that they do that with very differing levels of success. Other institutions also don't create wealth. Non-governmental organizations, for example, don't create wealth. They just depend on the wealth given to them, maybe through philanthropic sources, and then redistribute that. So we have to agree that businesses are the wealth creators. And then another important role for business in society has to do with the labor they provide. By providing labor, businesses constitute an important social context in our lives. They give our lives a specific meaning. Out of the labor, we often define our personalities. It makes a huge difference for us what we do and how we do it. So therefore, labor is a second point. And then I think one aspect has to be mentioned. And I try to link this idea to the father of modern economics. Everybody knows his name, Adam Smith. And everybody knows The Wealth of Nations that he has written. But in 1759, Adam Smith has, before he published The Wealth of Nations, published a more interesting book, I think, and that is The Theory of Moral Sentiments. And in this book, he explicitly states that it is not the deliberate and the selfish profit motive, the singular selfish motive, profit motive that defines capitalism and economic growth. No, it is rather a mix of profit-driven and non-profit-driven values like humanity, generosity, justice, and how you care for others, which are the values that are most valuable for others. As Amartya Sen, the famous Nobel laureate in economics, has put it. All these qualities enter this concept of creating shared value without violating its really capitalistic core. And with creating shared value, a new strategy paradigm is born, in my view, and I call the related business model Strategy 2.0. A new business model. And this new business model will change the way of businesses in many ways. It will change the way how we see the role of business in society. It will change the way how we compete when we do businesses. It will change the way how we find our place in the local and the global market when we compete. Inside companies, it will change the way how we define our value propositions when we try to lure consumers to buy the products that we produce. It will change the way how we configure our value chains and supply chains. It will change the way how we write our mission statements in the future. It will change the way how we attract young talent that we urgently need. And at business schools, it will certainly change the way how we will teach strategy to our students. Never, ever before have I seen the potential for more mindful reorientation than in this case of creating shared value. Mindful reorientation for business strategy and economic development. And the world has already changed in that respect because more and more smaller and larger firms start now to apply this concept. It's really starting to getting a sort of movement. Let me give you a creating shared value example. CSV in practice, and here I think of the following. Every year, sadly enough, more than 1 million babies die on their first day in life. And 98% of these babies die in the developing world. Years ago, the industry giant General Electric has started to set up a program called Healthy Imagination, where they provide medical devices to the low-income populations around the world. And in 2010, General Electric formed a global partnership with an American non-profit organization called Embrace. And they defined a social problem, and this was to fight infant mortality in rural India. Embrace came to the market with a device that looks like this, a little sleeping bag, because the problem was the following. Many of these babies die on the first day in life because they actually freeze to death. The cause of the death was that they could not develop enough body fat to keep and to control their body temperature, and this is due to prematurity. And hypothermia made it impossible to do that, to regulate the body temperature. Embrace developed this device where you have a sealed pouch of wax that you can place in a small compartment in the sleeping bag. And you can heat up the wax either through electricity if you have access to it, or you can put it in hot water, or you can heat it over fire. And thus, babies can be kept warm for hours and survive. And the fantastic thing is, they sell this product for about 1% of the amount that General Electric, for example, charges Western hospitals for incubators. They cost about $20,000 a piece. This sleeping bag sells for less than $200. General Electric, by providing the production capacity, distribution capacity, made Embrace prosper and help to solve a huge societal problem. And you see, the application of creating shared value is not just limited to the developed world, it's also applicable to the developing world. Every company can actually apply this concept of creating shared value. There's another interesting case that I'd like to mention just very briefly. You can check it out on the internet. And that is the case of a Nigerian creating shared value entrepreneur by the name of Tony Elumelu. Tony Elumelu has founded Hares Holdings in Nigeria, an African proprietary investment company. And he's another example where a small idea like this developed actually into a big philosophical movement in Africa, and that is called Africapitalism. Africapitalism supports the idea of a bigger engagement of the private sector in long-term investment in African companies. Please check it out and see how creating shared value works there. So I believe that businesses, and we heard it today, is in urgent need to rethink its traditional way how to tackle social problems. It has to find ways that go beyond the traditional tools that are grouped around philanthropy and corporate social responsibility. And with creating shared value, there is a new avenue, a new way to do that. And do it in a very, very useful way. We changed the question that we asked in the past, and our new question is, how can we as business be of use for the society and the environment in a sustainable way without compromising the idea of making a profit? No longer this old debate around the trade-off between economic and social. There are on both sides winners. It gives businesses the chance to really redefine their role, why they exist. They exist because of creating shared value. Our young generation, who are desperately seeking jobs nowadays, are eager to learn this. And the young generation, when they apply for jobs, they seek congruence between a company's culture, in a way, and their own morals. Now let's open a window and let my small idea fly out, because I think it's an idea worth sharing, and I thank you very much.